Hey folks, welcome to the second ever episode of the Wspr Podghast. I am your host Sean, and today I am joined by Zara. Zara and myself founded Wspr back in 2016 with Zara's wife Margaret. So today we are going to be reviewing an episode called Voices at Stirling Jail. I realized actually I made a mistake because I had named the episode I'd actually named the episode like in the intro, and then when I uploaded it to YouTube, I had written the title differently because it sounded better. And when I watched it back, I went, "Oh, oops, made a mistake there." We visited Stirling Jail in 2019. Interesting place.
It definitely was, especially that one in particular, the jail cell, just right at the very end.
Yeah.
And as I've always said to you, Sean, I never could ever claim to be a censorship, psychic, and everything, and you don't believe in that stuff anyway. But there has been investigations that I've been to in the past where I've been able to feel something.
Yep.
How? I don't know why. The way I can explain it is sometimes it's like you get a memory played in your head, but that memory doesn't belong to you. And it's like, it's irrelevant to me. But in particular that night, in general, it was just, I knew right away there was somebody standing right behind me and Amanda.
Yeah.
And Amanda, at the exact same time, pretty much was like, yeah, there's a guy, there's the guy standing right behind us. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was strange. The hairs in the back of my neck was standing up. It felt uncomfortable. But that's,
The weird thing about Stirling Jail is, so we just did a return to it this year, but that won't be an episode until like next year sometime. And we brought a new team member in and didn't give him like any information. And the one thing I can say is, in that specific jail cell, the entire time he was in there, he kept hearing like noises in the corner that you previously pointed out. And obviously he hadn't seen any of this because we did this investigation back in May, and this episode's only just released now, so he has no idea. And even I was thinking at that moment, like, that's kind of funny. I'm like, he's like getting noise responses in that corner, and just like that whole corner seems to be like uncomfortable. But the weird thing is of all the evidence we got in that jail cell, it seems to be coming from a male, which is odd because one of the historical facts that I didn't include in the episode is that the entire ground floor was pretty much women and children's wing. And I'm like, the only time men would have been in that wing was when it was a military detention barrack. But Maxine pointed out that based on our return, where a lot of the evidence seemed to be coming from one spirit who held power in the jail, we were like, maybe it's him?
it's possible. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
But all I can just say is definitely was a male.
Yeah.
That's you could tell by the heaviness of it.
Yeah.
Like obviously with the males, a more heavy presence there, whereas the female seems to be a bit more softer,
Yeah.
more relaxed. Obviously it depends on the nature of the spirit's energy. So
Yeah.
like angry or sad or emotional. And you tend to feel with female spirits, it can be quite emotional.
Yeah.
You feel the sadness and emotion. When you feel with the males, you feel the aggression, you feel
Yeah.
them. And I don't know, it's maybe just because obviously men project out more aggressively and women project out more emotionally. And if you go back in those times, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew that it was definitely male.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turned around and I said to you, I don't know why, but I got the name John. The name John just popped into my head. And I'm sure we discussed this when you were doing reviews. That it's as if you couldn't remember if you heard an EVP on the next cell to that and it came through as John, but you weren't sure. You were still looking into that.
So I've got an audio clip. One of the for me, when I played it back today, it sounds like Jack, but it's close. And again, when people are watching this at home, you guys can comment in. You can tell us what you think was said. Maybe you guys will hear John. Maybe you'll hear Jack. Obviously, we don't want to influence it.
That's what we're saying. It was like a ja.
Yeah. Yeah.
You couldn't tell, and I just kind of gravitated towards John. and I've kind of just stuck with that. But I could be wrong, you know.
One of the interesting things I was thinking about today was that I was thinking, so in that jail cell, there's a clip where I had an audible experience where someone breathed right in my eardrum, feel the breath. Um, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, it felt like a man. It felt like a man, like how breathy and deep the exhale was. And when we went back this year, the new team member that we had an audible experience with one of his ears that was similar. It was like, you know, some sort of like thing blowing past his ear, which freaked him out. And I thought about it, and I was like, maybe because I didn't get freaked out in 2019 when we visited, the spirit, if we believe that spirits are still residing there and it's the same spirits and they've got memory function, I suppose, and can remember things, might have decided not to pick on me that time and decided to pick on him. But it was the complete top of the building, like 5 floors up, where he had his experience, and I'm like, it's a bit odd, but I suppose that kind of like, so part of the storyboarding for this is we have like a haunting and context kind of thing, and I think for like that kind of explains the hauntings. Like a lot of the reports are like poltergeist activity, things move. I personally haven't noticed anything move in the building the two times we've went.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely the same. I mean, I remember we talked about how you've got residual energy
Yeah.
and intellectual energy. So basically, is it intelligent?
Yeah.
That means it's communicating with us. And that will be what you were thinking, like, didn't scare you the last time, but it's tried to do it with the new team member. So to me, that seems to be intelligent rather
Yeah.
than the residual energy that's there, repeating something over
Mhm.
and over. So I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah. Um, One of the other points that I just thought was um the funny thing about the kind of context of this place was is when we went in 2019, we didn't get any sort of like historical overview. At least I wasn't available at that point because I was doing all the setup. We were back in 2019. We were a bit more rushed when it came to getting things set up. It's definitely streamlined and smoothed out now. And when we went in, the thought process was just, well, jails have a warden, so or some sort of like person who oversees the jail. So um for the setup of this location, which I think was really, really good, and I think it's probably why we got so many pieces of like possible evidence, was just that we basically split everybody into teams of two and put them in a jail cell and shut the door. But there was at least probably two jail cells split between each team, so there was a massive gap because this is a big place, and I had to play warden and walk up and down the corridor. And it's funny as well because when we're thinking about it, I was talking about it the other day, like, you know, I'm going up and down telling people, be quiet, don't speak, or I'm offering spirits the opportunity to come and speak. Like, if you come in this cell, you can make noise. But now, after the revisit, we actually understand the historical context of this place, that it was a reform prison where it was silent. You were not allowed to speak. You were not allowed to speak to any other inmate. Um, Guards wore slippers on their feet, essentially, or the equivalent of like a modern day slipper, so that they could peacefully walk up and down and listen for any noise. So when you're talking to a spirit who was in a place that they were not allowed to speak, they're not going to come into the jail cell and talk to you.
Yeah,
They're going to be like, nope.
I think you just reenacting it
Yeah,
is what we talk about trigger objects.
yeah,
So you technically, essentially, you were the trigger object
yeah,
that night. You triggered it, and you triggered some communication going there. Um, I can't really say much for the other team members in the other
yeah, of
jail
course,
cells
yeah.
and what it was for like for them. I can only really comment about my experience
Mm,
in that cell. Um, and when you came into the room, I absolutely remember that when you said you waited for me to finish saying what I was saying, and then you were like, "Oh my god," just blew in my ear, and I was like, "I think it's the same person."
yeah,
And he probably was following you up and down the
yeah.
corridor. But yeah, it's always good that we use ourselves as a trigger object rather than using equipment.
Mm.
And absolutely, it just worked that night.
Yeah, yeah, Stirling, the place is called Stirling Old Town Jail. It's probably, I think, the best location we've done, because in the two times we've done it, at least for at least our group the second time, because I went out with Maxine this time, and I wasn't with Maxine originally. Well, I was with Maxine, sorry, at halfway through the investigation when everybody left. So we got a good amount of time to investigate together. And we had quite a lot of experiences that were kind of weird. So it's probably one of the best places that we've done. And the funny thing is when we go over the interview with Robert, when I first interviewed him, was like, honestly, my mind draws a blank. He's like, I cannot remember that moment in Stirling Jail. He was like, it's as if it's just been deleted out of his brain. He's like, I remember the whole investigation. He's like, I just do not remember when I was in that cell. And he's now had a chance to rewatch it, and it's jogged his memory. And he's like, yeah, he's like, it was like I saw a figure of someone stood in the door. He was like, there was no features to the person. It was just a humanoid shape, but it was darker than everything else that was there. And it was funny because I'm just like, well, that's the exact same spot where someone blew in my ear. That's the exact same cell that you were picking up on a male. And that's the exact same cell that when we returned this year, again, it was just like there was a lot happening in that one spot, which is bizarre. But that's the great thing about returning to a place is if you can have more experiences in the same spot, you're like, right, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because how do we debunk that? Can't exactly. So when you go back to the same place and something happens in that same place again, you've got to really sit there and question it.
Yeah.
We have looked at windows, we've looked for anything that would cause anything to come in. These walls are so thick. These prisoners are held in this cell. They're going nowhere. There is no air to blow through to cause that to happen, especially where you were in that corridor. If I remember correctly, there is no windows there.
No, everything's sealed up.
Yep.
It's not drafty. Like the
Yeah.
entire time that I've done it, I wasn't getting weird like cold drafts and chills. The only place that you might get that is like on the very, very, very top floor where it's got that weird lighthouse tower because the wind always rattles on the door. But again, even the lighthouse tower's like 100 feet maybe from the floor up. It's quite tall.
It was what, 3, 4? Up or something.
Yeah, it's quite tall.
And it was the guards' walkway was up there, wasn't it? With the what's technically it's like a watchtower, if you essentially say, because the guards used to walk that, but it wasn't just the guards. Prisoners also walked that because that was their exercise yard.
There was an exercise yard up on the roof, yeah, which is funny, an exercise yard on the roof of the prison.
I know.
Rather than outside, even though the whole prison's completely surrounded by a giant, 15-foot wall made of pure concrete stone,
Nowhere for them to go.
and cast iron gates, ain't nobody getting out. So yeah, we'll start going over kind of the evidence pieces now, just because there's quite a few in this one. There's probably double the amount that we got at this place than we did in the last episode, which was Songs of Lapwing Lodge. So what we'll do is we'll start off with the first clip. This clip, you can see in the clip I stop at one of the cell doors, and this kind of happened to me quite a lot that night when I was doing the warden experience, walking up and down. The cells that all the team members are in, the doors are completely pulled shut. When I'm walking between the two empty cells, it constantly just sounded like someone would speak out of the cell, and then I'm stopping, and you won't see it on camera because I'm not going to do a full body turn. I'm just turning my head and going and trying to listen in, and then I'll kind of progress through the building, but eventually I do start going up to different teams going, you guys talking? Because obviously the rule was this is a silent place, keep quiet unless I come in. Once I come in, that's when your investigation part starts. And it just happened non-stop. We'll play the second clip and we'll go from there. So, I mean, I don't even really need to explain that one. Again, I get this kind of experience a couple of times through the night where it's breathy. And the funny thing is this is the doorway that later on someone blew in my ear. The exact same spot. And that kind of breathy sound that you're hearing is what I hear later on. And I just thought it was funny when I reviewed this. I was like, hold on a minute. I was like, that's the exact same spot that later on when I'm stood there, it happened audibly to my ear. And at this point, we're absolutely stone cold silent. You know, we'll ask questions. We'll give it a 30-second gap before we continue asking questions just to see what kind of responses there are. But yeah, that was creepy kind of breathy sound when I played it back.
Well, it certainly was creepy. I mean, that was the jail cell that I felt out of all of them. It was the energy just was quite heavy.
Yeah.
I felt fine in the rest of the cells when I was in, but when I was in that one, it was kind of like, get me out of here, like
Yeah.
sort of feeling. But you just persevere with it and just stay there and you stood your ground, and that's how I was saying there's somebody behind us. So I'm not surprised that you felt that at all. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. We'll go on to the third clip now.
Are you guys whispering at all?
Not right that minute, no.
So yeah, again, you'll see, there was some of the times obviously when I was going up and down. If I was going to be more direct, I would like go into the cell a bit and be like, "What's going on?" And this just progressively kept happening the whole night. And then I'm going into team cells and going, "Are you guys talking?" And everybody's like, "No, we're absolutely quiet, just waiting on me coming in to then continue the investigation." And yeah, it was every time I was passing, not every time, but consistently when I was passing a cell that was empty with the door open, I just was going, I'm hearing someone talking, and I'm like, what the hell's going on in there? So we'll play clip number 4.
What's your name? Did you write in the back of the cell door?
So yeah, this is the one that I kind of marked down as possibly someone saying Jack, because everybody's stationary at this moment and the question was asked, what's your name? So this is the one that I've said to you, I thought it might have said John. For me, it's got more of an ack sound to the end of it. Weird. I don't know. I mean, it's up to obviously people at home when they're watching the episode. Like, if you think it's someone saying a name, then awesome. If not, totally fine with it. It's just, you know.
Question is though, what's that I put to it is, it might not actually be a prisoner that's followed. It might actually be the guards themselves that's walking up down there, because they're walking up and down beside you.
Yeah.
And it's probably, if you're getting this whispering noise in your ear, it's probably actually telling you to shh, shh.
Yeah.
You know, because you were talking. That's just my opinion on it. It's a theory that we can take on board. If we ever go back there again, we can try and use that theory and see if we can maybe interact with the guard, rather than thinking we're interacting with the prisoners.
Yeah.
And see if something will happen.
When I went over the map in the in the historical section of the episode, you'll see the map of Stirling Jail, and it actually shows you that the warden's office is what is currently the male's toilets. So when I was, after we'd finished and I'd went and did the historical look at the building, I was just like, we were thinking we were in communication in the new episode that will come out next year with possibly the warden. And I was like, oh, that's going to be interesting, because the next time we go back, we're going to have to do an investigation in the male toilets, because the male toilets was the warden's office. That entire back section where the women's toilets was offices for higher up members of staff. Whereas you've got that cylinder, is that even the word, cylindrical room in the center. That was the guard office, where they were able to sit there and see up both wings. So I think, yeah, if we get a return to
the room, the circle room with
Yeah.
the table in it.
not the one that we use base camp in. Yeah, the one with the table.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the
where
guards.
it had the ledger of all the prisoners' names and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. I know. Okay. Yeah.
Be interesting if they had like a. It's funny. I was like, be interesting if they had like a guards register the names. But that was the guards sort of like observation post for at least the floor that bottom floor. And I think when we go back, yeah, it'd be interesting to try and focus more on the guards experience to see if we somehow amp the activity, because like you said, like a lot of the audible experiences are happening in and around the corridor, and considering it was supposed to be a quiet prison, you would expect that the prisoners would probably be quiet. We'll play the next clip. I have an audio version of this clip. We'll play the audio version, the edited one. Just for clarification for edit, all I did was use the noise removal, just to sort of bring the pitch up on the areas that are vocal and reduce that sort of background hum that you're hearing from the electrical, like the emergency lighting. So we can play the edited audio clip. So it's in that kind of 1 to 3 second gap. You'll hear what sounds like a woman talking, and it's sort of in the doorway of the cell that Mags and Maxine was in, but they're both quiet. There's no speech happening. In the episode, I think I might have just asked a question, because I'm cutting these for the podcast so that we're just getting the small snippets of where the actual evidence is. If you watch back, you'll see a question was most likely asked, and then it sort of there's a lull in noise because we don't speak at that moment. For me, I think it's someone saying my name is. I think it says Eliza. I don't know. Again, this is up to people at home to, throw their 2 pence in and tell us what they think. But obviously, I'm a guy at this moment. Maxine and Mags are both quiet, and you can just hear what I think is clear as day is a woman talking. We'll play the clip one more time, the video clip, just for people to see. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a good couple of clips where we're picking up on women talking. There's one clip later on where a team member, it's Maxine, and myself both audibly actually hear a woman talking. I don't think I can actually pick it up in the audio, but we're both at that moment. The entire team had pretty much gone home, other than Robert, Fraser, myself, and Maxine. So she's the only woman, and we are sitting in the corridor. Robert's at one end, Fraser's at the other of the wing, complete opposite sides of the building. And she's like, "Can you hear that woman talking?" And I'm like, so we get quite a few experiences of women talking. We'll play the next clip. I have no idea what that is. It's like
Yeah. Do that again. Yeah.
yeah, we'll play it again one more time.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was clear. I could really make that out.
Yeah.
Um,
There's nothing on my
I don't know. I don't think it's speech or anything. I think it might be actually something that's getting hit.
Yeah. Because I don't, in the 2 times we visited, I've not heard a noise like that. There's one point later on in the evening where Fraser's hearing a dripping sound, but by this point in the night it started raining outside. At this point it's dry. There isn't any bad weather or anything going on.
Yeah, but even then, if it's raining, it wouldn't make
Yeah.
That would be continuous if you were hearing it. But you can remember as well, there was these thick metal solid doors.
Yep.
Something could have hit that. It could have made that tap.
And when I'm going in these jail cells, you'll see quite a lot in the episode. I'm shutting the doors over. Prisoners used to carve things in the doors, like the time they've spent in the prison, and to reduce noise contamination, it's always a good idea to get that shut over. And yeah, it was just I'm glad as well that I've got the perspective of both Stuart and Robert at that time, because both of them are stood still. They just asked the question, and as far as they were feeling, at least at the beginning of the night, they weren't really feeling anything. Based on the what they had said during, I might not included it in the episode just because there's so much footage, but for them in the moment that they were there wasn't really much going on. And then when I heard that back, I was like, that's weird, because my camera doesn't make that noise. Like, there's nothing on my camera that makes that noise. The only thing I've got is the viewfinder button to increase and decrease the zoom, but it doesn't make noises like that. So
it sounds more like it's hitting something metal, a tin, is it, or something like that?
no idea.
It's as if you're tapping something.
Yeah.
Did the guys ask for a tapping noise? Give a sign, give me a sign that you hear. Was it asking for anything like that? And that's the response they got.
Possibly. I can't remember the specific question asked before. But obviously those are kind of the questions that we go through, and maybe that was what it was. But we'll move on to the next clip.
Just personal experience. Nothing of concrete evidence or anything like that.
This one really doesn't even need an explanation. That's the breath that happened. For context, when you see me going in and out of these jail cells, like, the wall is like this thick, and when we returned to it, I showcased to the new team member Richard, my shoulders touch wall to wall, so I'm holding a handy cam like this. There is no space, nobody can squeeze between me. You and Amanda are in the cell talking to me face to face, and I've got you guys on camera, and again, I'm the only person in that corridor. None of the other team members were in the corridor. Everybody was separated in jail cells. That was the sort of control experiment that we were doing. And all I hear is just this breathy, like, and I could feel the air on my eardrum, which was even weirder. But in that moment, I'm like, there is no point in freaking out. You're deaf. Yep. You have to lip read, so even the setup, we've done our best to make sure my mouth is above the microphone. So I'm like, right, well, I'd just be interjecting on what you're saying, and you're probably going to be confused in the dark trying to read my lips, and I'm going to be like, somebody just blew in my ear, and you'll be like, what? So I was like, right, I'll let Zara finish her piece, and then you'll hear in the episode, I eventually say to you, like, did one of you guys, like, sigh there? But you can see both of you are completely still, and it's just you talking. It happens through you talking. And
but you've got to remember as well, we're in the pitch black.
Yeah.
I couldn't even actually see you.
Yeah.
All I had was some lighting coming from, like,
the emergency lighting in the hall.
Emergency light in the corridor, and then just some lighting coming off your camera hitting your face.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can still hear you without having to lip read you.
Yeah.
But it's like you were saying, you didn't want to freak out. You let me finish what I had to say.
Yeah.
And then you told me, and I absolutely remember that night, because then you were like, now you've finished saying what you said, I just wanted to tell you this. And I was just like, well, that confirms exactly what we feel. There is something in this room with us right now. But if that breathy noise, I'm wondering if it's telling you to shush, or...
For me, it was more like an exhale, like someone breathing out rather than a shh sound. It didn't feel like there was any kind of like lip movement. Like, it was just like a, and the reason obviously I ask in the episode, did one of you guys sigh, is literally just so that if anyone at any point tries to go, someone did that, it was one of them too. That was me just going, the only thing that I can think of is a sigh, sort of like a like that. So I was just checking, just for the purpose of making sure people know that we're checking if there was
Yeah.
any possibility that was someone. But I can concrete say I actually felt the breath in my ear. And the weirder thing about it when I was thinking about it is the only way, I mean, unless we think spirits can somehow manifest themselves through walls and like, and obviously there's a lot of reports, people saying they've seen spirits move through walls. The only way that that would have physically happened in like our physical form would be someone had to literally lean in halfway through that door and just blow right into my ear. And I will play it one more time just because it's so good.
Just personal experience. Nothing of concrete evidence or anything like that.
You can actually literally see that you've actually kind of stepped back out of the cells a wee bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you're actually now, so that could have been something was already in the corridor and just kind of leaned over you that had to have been the same sort of height as you. Because you've stepped back and you can see the inner wall of the door, which suggests to me there was room for them to do that precisely at that point. So obviously it didn't come from the room itself.
Yeah, it came from behind me.
Yeah, because obviously I spoke about how we've been feeling something that's been behind us. I was talking about what we had felt, and felt it was something. It was no longer there. I believe I was talking about, but there's somebody behind us. We've got this name. It just felt like, it's a male. And by that point, you've obviously came. He's obviously could have stepped out of the room and could have done that. Who knows? What is causing that breathy sound? We don't know. But yeah, it's really interesting. It's quite a good one.
Yeah. I definitely, you can see that I adjust at the moment that it's happening. But the thing again that people won't see on camera is like when my camera's like this, I still have free motion in my head. So at that point, I'm like what the hell's going on? And the corridor is absolutely empty. There's no one there. The whole team, as part of the control experiment, was separated into jail cells with 2 cells between, and they're quite wide. And even still, the concrete wall between is as thick as that door. So you've got all that space, and it was just it's a weird one. It's my second ever like audible experience on an investigation, and so glad it happened because it's just weird. That's the kind of thing you're going out for, is weird stuff like that where you're just like, there is physically no way anyone could do that because there's nobody bloody there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing especially when it's a personal experience that you get for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, and then to be backed up by, okay, we've actually just captured that on the camera. I mean, the amount of times that we've had personal experiences and we've not had anything to back it up because we've maybe didn't have the recording or nothing. We just happened to go in just to get the feel for the place and we get a personal experience. And I can only just say, oh, by the way, guys, this is what happened. Yep. And you're like, damn it, it's not even recorded it. We've not even anything to back that up. Yeah. But you yourself, you can take that away and go, I've had a personal experience. And for you got a personal experience and you caught it, which is it's just sweet. It's absolutely sweet.
Yeah. It's the purpose. It's the benefit of having a camera, a really good quality camera with really good audio, because those are the moments that you're trying to catch. And so many times, unfortunately, because we have so many team members and we can't film everything, people will have personal experiences and we're just like, it's not on camera.
I know.
So there's nothing we can do about it. We can't use it. It just goes down as a personal, whereas that at least is also documented, which is perfect. We'll move on to the next clip.
Did you guys make noise down here?
Yeah, again, it was another sort of like, I'm just hearing things as I'm walking by doors. Like you can see one of the doors here on the right just before you get to these bars, and I think the cell that the team members are in are the further one down. And again, people are just like, no, we're not making any noise. And I'm just like, it was constantly happening as I was doing the walk up and down, doing the warden exercise. And it's an experience. It's a pity that we have so little time to allow other people to go back and forward themselves and try and get those experiences. because we're trying our hardest to document and allow everybody to have their time to investigate, and it just kept happening that night. We'll move on to the next clip.
Did you hear anything there?
The noise.
Yeah.
So this is me and Maxine now, and you can hear it clear as day. It's like a wheet, and I've marked it down as a whistle because later on, when me and Maxine are investigating, we are like, right, that sounded like a whistle, and I think it happens 3 times. And at this point, the whole team had went home, other than Fraser, Robert, myself, and Maxine. So we're just going up and down now as a pair doing ward and stuff. I've got my phone out. I was using it as an audio recorder. We stop, take breaks, ask questions. We get the guys at each end, basically just to be ears for us and listen. And yeah, we just it's just a weird sound. It's like wheet, and it just sounds like a whistle. At least at that moment in our ears, it sounded like a whistle as well. Because we referenced it in another clip. We'll move on to the next clip. I'm just saying, we're coming back to you.
Definitely had that one.
You guys want to have seen that? Just because the way that we're editing this one, we're gonna have we should have this up like maximized. But me and Zara both just went, huh? Because like it's so clear.
Yeah, it was really
And
loud.
this is within the span of like 30 seconds or a minute, I'm pretty sure, in the episode, because when I was cutting it down, there wasn't that much of a gap. I think this is me and Maxine now walking back the other way. We kind of like went round the corner of the circular room, and then we do a wee bit, and then we walk back, and it happens again. And
Same spot.
similar spot, yeah, around where the guard office is. So if the guard office door's here, the first whistle was over here, and now the other whistle was over here, which is in the circumference of where the room was. And I'm like, maybe it's a guard just being like, come here, you know, like you over here, like trying to keep the noise down. But it happened twice in like the span of like a couple of minutes in the same spot.
I wonder if that's how the guards communicated with each other.
Like just quick
They'd
little
whistle to each other
whistles
to get
and
their
hand
attention to come.
gestures and stuff. Like, come here, you, yeah, weird. We'll do the next clip.
Was that you, Robert? Not you, Fraser, it didn't come for you. Robert, did you just make a noise?
Yeah. So behind us in this one, I remember it sounded like bumping in one of the jail cells. You'll hear a kind of like click click sound, and I think that's Fraser just clicking on his flashlight. But when Fraser comes out and goes, "Oh, that was me," because this is what we do if you're making a noise. And like right at that moment, he was like, click. So he's like, "Oh, that was me," and I'm like, "No. Where we are stood, me and Maxine are stood facing his wing. Behind us again is the guard. We're at the edge of the guards quarters, because the building kind of goes in a V shape, and the audio was coming about, in my perspective, was like halfway up to where Robert was, and Robert was in the jail cell that you guys were in at the beginning of the night. And he's like, "No, I'm not moving. I'm not doing anything. It's not me. I'm being quiet." And I'm like, "Right, okay." So that area is where every single time I passed, I was hearing someone whispering and talking in the cell. So for me, I don't know. I think the way you look at it is like, it's kind of like someone's trying to beckon you over, like, you know, knock over here. You know, when you're asking, like, give me a sign, they're like trying to pull you over there. So it seems to be that one side of the corridor, the jail cell that you were in, and then just by the area that we set base camp up. And then once you go into the corridor that Fraser was in, there's a lot less happening, which is kind of weird, because
Essentially, where we felt where the energy was mostly
Yeah.
was that side of the
the
building.
building, yeah. We'll play the next clip.
Wherever you are, can you make that noise again? Because I know I heard you up here.
It sounded like whistling, didn't it? You didn't hear it, no.
I heard like a wee like click noise in there.
So I stuck this one in just because I thought this was a good reference point of showing that even at this point, later again in the evening, Maxine's still hearing what sounds like whistling. And funnily enough, I'm hearing like clicky kind of tap sounds in those cells there, which is where I heard the bump earlier when I was asking Robert. And it's also the area where every single time I passed it, I just kept going, someone's talking in this jail cell. And I'm like, what's going on? All those little clips of me going, is someone talking in there? Is that one of you guys? That is the spot that it keeps happening in. So just very active side of the building. We'll play the next clip.
Did you hear that?
Sounded like a woman's voice.
So at that moment, you can kind of see me and Maxine are like eyeing each other up. Like before she even goes, "Did you hear that?" We're both like, and again, it sounded like a woman talking. I have an edited version of it as an audio clip. Again, for Audacity, I just did a bit of noise reduction, try to up where the vocal parts were and drop that sort of buzzing sound. The audio, by the way, just to clarify for folk, in the actual clips are not adjusted. The most I'll do is maybe drop the decibels a little bit, which isn't any editing. It's just making sure that the sound's not as loud, because sometimes it's really harsh. And when you put that on an episode on YouTube, it's just going to blow everyone's ears out. Yeah. So yeah, we'll play the audio edit version of this one.
Did you hear that?
Sounded like a woman's voice.
So with this one, where I've even added like a sort of little decibel up on that clip, it sounds like someone talking. It sounds like a vocal pattern. It's not super loud. You can't specify, like, whereas the original clip to me, it sounded like a woman. You can't, for me in this moment, I'm not hearing like specifically like a like say a soft feminine voice or a masculine voice, but there is a sort of chatter that's happening, and it just coincides with me and Maxine both looking at each other and going, and then can you hear that? And again, it's in that jail cell spot. It's in that spot where I consistently was hearing people speak throughout the night. We'll play the next clip.
You all right, Robert? You getting in? Robert, you okay?
I can't breathe.
So at the end of this little evidence sort of review piece, we're gonna like insert an interview that I did with Robert to try and go over the experience that he had. We can all say I've never seen Robert behave that way, because he says in the interview, well, I am asthmatic. And I was like, but it didn't seem like an asthma attack. Like, and even when he was then discussing it, he's like, well, he said it didn't feel like an asthma attack. And I'm like, well, in the entire time that we've done investigating, he's like, it's a jail cell, it's dusty. And I'm like, pretty much every building we go into is dusty. There are buildings that are so dusty, full of just all sorts of contaminations that would affect someone who's asthmatic, and he's never had an experience like that. You can even see the hesitation on Maxine with the camera. Like, she does step back and she eventually goes, Sean, you need to get in here, because Robert was just stood there quiet and just like breathing. And then he then describes, I don't know what it is. I saw what looked like someone stood at the door of the cell, and it's the room that you were in and the room that I had the voice happen. And when I say to him, like, Maxine suggests you should probably go take a break, and I'm like, yeah, do you want to go take a break? He's just like, yeah, screw it. And when we've watched the clip back of when he gets down the corridor, it's very loud. And based on the time when we looked at it, we were like, it kind of seems like Robert almost runs down the corridor. He's not running, but he is fast paced, like, just like, I'm getting out of there. He's like, I'm not dealing with that. and it really stressed them out.
I mean, if the years that we have investigated, especially with Robert, we've never seen Robert so scared. Because a lot of times he just sucks it off and it's like, oh, it could be that, or it could just be that, you know. But you can see it actually looks like something has consumed him, possibly draining his energy as well. And it's his whole body language is completely changed. That's not Robert. What we are seeing, the guy that we know, who's quite easy ozy, he's fun, he's
Yeah,
kinda,
Robert in any investigation that we've done is happy. He laughs all the time. He has a good time, and he's quite tough. He is quite tough. I've never seen that happen. It hasn't happened since.
Nope.
All the investigations we've done since, Robert hasn't had an experience like that. So, just all of that coinciding with what we were catching in that jail cell, whatever's going on in that building, a lot of it centers in that one spot. Because that is the spot in the next episode when we return this year that everyone was going, there's noises and crap happening in that corner.
Yeah.
It's all in that jail cell. Yeah. We have one more clip to play, and then we're finished with the review of the evidence. I just included this one because at this point in the evening, Robert and Fraser are in the break area, because eventually I'm like, Fraser, can you go into the break area and keep an eye on Robert? This is me and Maxine in the cell that Robert had an experience, and we just shut the door over. And I am in there, and I do get a little bit like, right, you're messing with people now, you know, come and communicate. Because at that point I was like, right, well, whatever's in there seems to be really interested in affecting people physically, and I was like, so let's see if we can try and amp up the things. And there's just a sort of little kind of bumpy knock sound that happens throughout the questioning, and obviously at this point there's 4 people other than the staff member who's at reception, which is the complete other opposite end of the building. If you've ever been to Stirling Jail, and it's like the complete opposite end of the building, and I just included it because I was like, okay, I was asking questions and there's a sort of bumpy kind of knock response, but nothing major on that one. But again, it's all in that one room.
yeah. I mean, it basically concludes exactly what I've been saying for the very start of this episode about that room. And that room in particular, for me, is where I felt it the most. And I'll say it again, I never claim to be a sensitive. I don't claim to be a psychic medium or anything. But that was a personal experience for me. And it wasn't just for me. Amanda, who was also in that jail cell, who is a sensitive and claims to be a sensitive, was like, Zara, I'm feeling exactly the same thing as you. Because obviously we had spoke about it before you had come back.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely something right behind us. And it's just like that sensation where the hairs goes up and you feel like it's like when you walk out of one room and walk into another room and you go, oh, there's something there. And then that's exactly what it was like. And we knew right away that there was something in that room. And it definitely, it paints the picture of what I've just spoke about and how it's happened throughout the night. And it's really, really interesting. And it's definitely a place that we've already been back. But it's a place that I would like to go back again, because we really need to, I think we really need to focus in that area in particular and really set up some equipment there and see what happens.
I think it's one of the things I just want to point out as well is like a lot of the sort of like paranormal stuff, when people discuss paranormal research and things, you know, most of the time when we're in buildings, we're not getting creepy feelings.
Yeah, no.
We're not getting any sort of physiological changes at all. I mean, that entire time I was in that building, I was comfortable as hell. Even when I returned this year, I was comfortable. I wasn't creeped out. The whole time I'm walking up and down there and I'm hearing things coming in and out of cells, it's not creeping me out. I do have a definite fear now, though, unfortunately, of like jails, because every single time we go to a jail, we'll try and do like solo investigation stuff, and I'm like, I'm not staying on this floor on my own, because there's just something really creepy about being in a corridor with doors just all the way down, big metal doors open. I'm like, this is gonna be the one time I'm gonna walk down here and I'm gonna turn and look, and I'm finally gonna see someone stood there, and I'm gonna go, why did it have to be today? Why did it have to be today? Because I've not seen anything on an investigation. I've just had audible experiences, and those aren't actually that scary. Like, it's just is what it is. But I think if I ever do a jail and I see someone standing in a jail cell, I'm just gonna be like, I'm done. No more investigating. I'm out of this damn building.
Yeah.
Give up.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, I felt fine as well.
Yeah.
I didn't feel uncomfortable with the place either. It was just in that room, and
Yeah.
you've got to remember, you didn't actually spend that amount of time. So we must have been in these cells for a good 15, 20 minutes,
Yeah.
right? In that time, how much energy that we were picking up on there,
Yeah.
and we were picking up on this energy, and it was starting to get to the point where we were starting to feel quite uncomfortable, creeped out, uncomfortable, yes, because obviously anybody would be uncomfortable, you know,
Yeah.
and then you're like, it's like as if you feel like somebody's watching me, or that person's watching
Yeah.
me, or this really is uncomfortable. With that was exactly what it felt
Yeah.
like.
And that's what I'm saying is like, it's not that everywhere we go we're just like, oh, I feel like I'm being watched. That's not actually a normal experience for
No.
most of us. Quite a lot of time we'll go places and we're just like,
There's nothing.
no, it's chill.
It's nothing. It's nothing there.
Yeah.
We can explain that. Oh, that's just the heating cooling down. We can
Yeah.
explain that. Oh, that was. Yeah, I know we've had that. I mean,
Yeah.
probably we would like to have a lot more evidence
Yeah.
based on the years that we have done investigation, and we probably only have maybe enough on our hands to tell you what we've got out of size 2016
Yeah, like
till now.
major pieces at
Major
least.
pieces, exactly.
What we'll do is for this section of the podcast, and then I keep reminding myself, the podcast, we will we'll insert the interview between me and Robert. You guys can watch it, enjoy, and just take his experience on it. So, Robert, we are gonna discuss 2019 Stirling Jail, and I'm gonna ask you what happened.
So had a good investigation, really enjoyed it. Then about like one-ish, actually maybe earlier than that, quite a lot of the team left, leaving like me, you, Maxine, Fraser, I think
That was
someone
it.
else.
I think it was just four of
Was
us.
that it?
Yeah.
And we obviously stayed because we wanted to get the most of our time there, and did like solo investigations in each of the jail cells. I went into the one that was at the back part of it on the left hand side. It was like the furthest away one. Was in there. We were all being as quiet as we can. You were like walking the hall, essentially recreating what would have happened with like prisoners and guards, like keep an eye on them. And I just got this sudden feeling as if obviously I wasn't alone there.
Yeah.
I felt as if there was like something or someone who like meant me harm just at the corner next to the doorway.
Yeah.
It just looked, when I looked over there, it just looked a lot darker than the rest of it. And then, well, next thing I remember, I'm vaguely hearing someone's voice. It becomes clearer that they're like saying my name. And then both you and Maxine are at the door, asking if I'm okay, asking if I want to get out, and straight away I'm like, yeah, and I just
Screw it is what you said. You're out. Screw it, I'm out.
pushed passes as well.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, like, the situation with that, like you were kind of hyperventilating. Like people, obviously, from the point of seeing this, will probably have already watched the episode, so they'll see exactly how you were when we entered the cell. You've never experienced that before. I've never ever seen you have an experience like that.
Yeah.
That was a first
Like-
in.
Like, don't get me wrong. I am asthmatic, and obviously it's a pretty dusty place.
Yeah,
But I also know exactly what an asthma attack feels like. And
yeah.
definitely wasn't that. Like, not
Yeah.
even in that.
That's what I mean,
my
like-
inhaler didn't even work
Yeah.
for like.
In all the
5 or 10 minutes
investigations we've
afterwards.
done, in all the investigations we've done, I've never noticed you have an asthma attack, like once. So obviously that could have been like, I get that could be an asthma attack, but you're obviously saying that wasn't an asthma attack. I suppose the other thing just to add is that it was weirdly enough the room that Zara was in when she was, because that night we were doing the sort of like sensitivity training stuff of trying to get people to open up, and they were saying there was a guy in the room, and funnily enough, the spot that you were seeing someone was the doorway that I was in, where someone spoke right into my ear. It's in the episode. It's like I referenced it to Zara, but someone literally walked up to my ear and blew in my eardrum, and like a heavy deep breath, and like you'll know, no one was in the corridor. It was only me. Everyone was separated by at least one jail cell between each team, and the doors were shut, so there was no one in the corridor behind me, and I was like in the door frame, so in the area that you were seeing possibility of an outline of someone or whatever, that was exactly where I had my experience. So bit of a weird jail cell for sure.
Yeah. I actually think it may have been like more than just one jail cell between us, because obviously we had
Some of
to
them,
space out.
yeah, were
'Cause
doubles.
it is quite a long distance in
Yeah.
the corridor. So like, but I think Fraser might have been at the bottom end.
He was at the complete opposite, yeah.
Yeah.
But when I had the experience, I had obviously the whole team was in the building still, but like you'll attest to as well. You'll see it in the episode. Everyone is separated. It's only me doing the corridor work. Maxine wasn't even with me at that time. She was with Mags.
Yeah.
So it's just a bit bizarre.
Stuart as well. Different cell, and we didn't pick up anything in that cell.
Yeah. The only detail I want to add, just because if this goes into the episode, which I'm glad to add it, is just that, funnily enough, after the second revisit, which we've done this year, which the episode will probably come out next year, that whole floor was pretty much just women and kids. The only way I can think, because whatever blew in my ear was 100% a guy, the feeling that Zara was getting in that cell was it was a guy. Most of the spirits that people were feeling like they were picking up on were men, and the only period, as far as I could think of, that there would have been men in those areas was when it was a military detention barrack. But Maxine suggested, well, it could have been the warden or could have been some of the guards, and maybe they're still there kind of enacting the power that they feel. Even though it was a pretty relaxed prison environment, like prison sucks, but
it was the first of its kind.
Yeah, and it was a major improvement.
Whole, like, learning people trades, actually giving them a wage while they're staying there.
Yeah.
But then, it has had a long history. I mean, at one point, I think it was used to store sweets.
Yeah, for the Caledonia Confectionery Company.
A really weird one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that'll do it for the interview. Thank you for joining. We've concluded the investigation. We've discussed absolutely everything that we can about the location. We had a Q&A question asked by Elaine, who is the mother of our friend Richard, and she said, "How do you feel after a hunt?" Me, personally, exhausted.
So I like to call it the paranormal hangover.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's like you've been out in the night out, you've been drinking, and you've got an absolute hangover. Because when you wake up in the morning, you feel so groggy, you feel drained, and it's kind of like who stole my energy? Like my energy is depleted, it's gone.
Yeah.
And sometimes for me, it can actually take nearly 2 days to fully recover from it.
Yep.
So So we like to call it the paranormal hangover.
Yeah. The last investigation that we did at the weekend there, I was in absolute agony. I was in so much pain because like people don't think about it, but we might be doing like 3-4 miles of walking during an investigation. Because when I did my step count on a day, I'd already done 3 miles, getting everything prepped before I even left. And by the time I got back, I was just like, and I was in so much pain I could barely sleep because your just body's absolutely done in. But that'll be it for this episode. If you want to find us on social media, you can find us under WSPR Scotland. You can find us under West Paranormal Research Scotland. We also will have a QR code in the video. You can scan that. The socials will be attached to these videos anyway. Once this goes over to Spotify as well, because we decided to put this on Spotify, there should be a link in the description. It can take you to the socials. And yeah, that's it. Just video release schedule. It's on our Facebook. If you're interested in seeing when episodes are coming out, go nuts. This episode will air soon, and right now we currently have 2 episodes and a podcast episode on Facebook. YouTube for you guys to watch. Thank you for watching. This is West Scotland Paranormal Research and the Podghast, and this is the end of this episode.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.